Hello, everyone, and welcome to FECast, the official podcast of Friends of Eternal. I am your host, Sunyveil. This is episode 3, and I would like to welcome Linyvine to the cast today. Linyvine, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me, Sunyveil.
It's a pleasure to have you. Today, Linyvine and I are going to be talking about the campaign, both the actual experience of playing through the campaign, as well as the cards and strategies that are enabled with the release of the campaign. And there's a lot to go through with that. There were, I would say, this campaign had a lot of very high impact cards. And, well, the decks that are being played today look quite a bit different than the decks that were played a week ago. And I will also have my segment of Sunny's Not Having It, which is going to be a tweet from Bassoon Buffoon, where we'll talk about some of the things he said. Okay, let's get on to a brief introduction on you, Linyvine, just in case anyone hasn't been hanging out in the Friends of Eternal Discord and seeing your active presence there. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've been playing Eternal forever. I didn't start right away in the closed beta, but I think it was the second wave of invites. I've played in the tournament scene since Tess ran the original ETS. I love Eternal. I think it's amazing, and this is coming from my background in Magic the Gathering. I think that it can go It can go the distance. I think that it has more promise than any other digital card game, and I'm ready for it. My high point for Eternal is I did do really well in the very first ETS season. I think it came in second, but I'm not 100% sure. I know I was top 8, and I know I lost to Stone Scar mid-range, which was really good back then. And then I did top 64 in the first ECQ in January. I've been playing Magic for quite some time, even though I haven't played it in a few years. I won a couple of states, and Control is my favorite archetype in every card game, so there's that too.
So we can see you playing Maul as you did in the top 64 of the ECQ, right?
So that was a last-minute decision. I was going to play FGS literally into the last 5 seconds. And I was actually really happy with my Maul choice because I expected to play against FGS, which at the time, that was how you beat that deck. But in the top 64 match, I did play against someone playing FGS, but with the one card that countered the Maul list, which was the 4-2 Highwayman, which just kind of wrecked that whole deck up.
Well, I was playing Bullet Shaper in order to swing that matchup, but, you know, there are a few ways of tackling that. Anyway, glad to have you on. It's always a pleasure to have you in the team Discord. So let's get right into talking about the campaign. The campaign, of course, the same formula as previously, where you play a bunch of storyline missions with some narration and back and forth between the characters. What did you think about it? Just the experience of playing through the campaign.
So as far as just playing through this campaign, I think it was the best they've come out with so far. You actually genuinely cared about the main characters that were talking. You remember that, I don't want to spoil much, but...
No, but this is a spoiler cast. We can spoil whatever we want.
Alright, so the bear fight had me crying. I was like, oh wow. No, I don't want either one of these to die. But, yeah, I was a big fan. The lore was great. And, I mean, Eternal lore is great. The only thing they kind of flopped in all the previous campaigns, I wasn't a fan of any of them as far as lore goes.
Sorry, you said that none of them flopped?
No, I think they all flopped. Apart from this one, all of them flopped. But when you get those little tidbits of lore that Direwolf gives you and all of the various announcements that they do or spoilers, those are good. And I really like them. I wish they would have put some of that into their campaigns, which I feel they finally did.
Okay, that's a take. Not to say that I think negatively about that, but that's, you know, a fair bit different than my own as far as the lore, because I really liked all the stuff about Jekk's Bounty. I enjoyed that from a lore point of view, and basically anything with Jekk in it, I was a fan.
See, Jekk is my least favorite character.
Alright, that would make sense.
He's just literally there at times when things are happening, but he's literally an unimportant character. He's like Han Solo in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, that's awesome. But
I feel Han Solo is an irrelevant character of the Star Wars universe.
He's just your everyday guy that gets swept up in the cogs of destiny.
So listen to this with my Han Solo reference. This is why I don't like Han Solo. If you take him out of every scene, every part of the Star Wars universe that he's in, and just put random smuggler number 2 in there, it would work exactly the same.
Yes.
He is completely irrelevant to the story.
Yes, but that's not the point. The point is that random people get swept up in these great happenings of history. Clearly, we do
I'm not one
not
of
agree
those.
on
See,
this.
now the Vara one was okay. I don't mind the Vara only because we did find out about how Vara got her powers, about her father a little bit more, even though that was only implied until then. But eh.
Okay. Well, I think we can agree on one thing, and that was that the bear fight was amazing. That was a definite highlight of the campaign this time around.
I also liked the Yushkov fight, the one right after that. That was also pretty good.
I mean, your opponent's starting off with Yushkov and immediately breaking your weapon.
You mean
I don't know how many times you had to do that fight, but I can imagine that there are some people out there that are just God.
It took me 2 tries, but I can understand why it would take someone a lot. But no, I got really lucky. I think I got a vanquish in my opening hand. It was pretty great.
Well, yeah, that seems pretty good. So, I personally didn't like the campaign that much from an experience point of view. I'm not so much opposed to Direwolf giving us unique decks in order to play the campaign with, but I felt like the decks that we played with were just, like, pretty garbage. I mean, Cameron's a fine card, but I feel like the cards need to be more synergistic or more flavorful in order for them to really go into this, like, bad limited type deck. And for me to enjoy the experience, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to be playing bad limited cards in a campaign unless each one represents something from the story. And I didn't feel like that was really that much the case, if you know what I mean. Like,
I do. So the first time, I think we actually agree on some.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, second time, bear fight.
Okay, yeah, bear fight was great. But as far as the decks, they did drop the ball in several places. Like, I'm saying here, the first one was okay. The Rakano one, I think it was. Like, yeah. I didn't even notice. I didn't realize actually some of the cards were in there because I got some really bonkers first few games. Like, I got Milos into the weapon that makes 3 cats and then just went crazy in like 3 games in a row. So I didn't realize that there were bad cards. But then when I got to the second part of the story where you're actually playing as Milos, then I started saying, why is this card even here? Like, I felt that there were singles or like individual cards that they just threw in there because they didn't want to give us 4 of something. Like, we just don't want to give you more of this, so we're going to give you this random card. Like, one of the big ones was the 0 cost destroy target attachment as a slow spell. It's like,
I did not see that, and I am very glad I did not, because I would not have been happy. Yeah.
It's like, and there were a lot of them. Like, there were a lot of, like you said, draft cards that I mean, I wouldn't even take that card in draft. I would take just about any other card there was.
Well, one other complaint I have about it is that the battles were nothing spectacular. They were just one-on-one. Your deck against their deck. You're a pretty unexciting deck against their also pretty unexciting deck. I think that if we had more mission conditions, special rules, then that would have made that a lot more exciting. Or yeah. I mean, if we just had special rules in a lot of these missions and some sort of deck that makes those special rules fun to play with, I think that it would have come across much, much better.
I think that one thing that Direwolf needs to do, and this isn't just for their campaigns, though it would definitely have an impact on them, is I think they need to drastically increase the difficulty level of their bots. They can. It's easily possible, but they just don't. Even in the Master Gauntlet or Forge, the bots are a joke. You can predict every play they make. You know exactly what they're going to do and when they're going to do it, and you can play around it. I don't like it.
Well, I don't know. I think that might be more difficult to do. I am not someone that is good with computers, so I don't know what programming AI is like. But I think that having different difficulty levels of bots, and then if you need to make a change in one of them, becomes pretty difficult. Or like if you need to make a change across the board to implement a new mechanic or something like that, it might become difficult. But this is not my area of knowledge, so I don't know how.
So as far as game design goes, I'm not too knowledgeable, but there's countless examples of other card games who make their AI much more difficult. Like Hearthstone. I know a lot of people don't like bringing that up, but their campaigns, their single-player campaigns are next level. Like, they're actually... That's the only part of Hearthstone that I liked. I didn't like the competitive play. I didn't like anything else, but the campaigns are great. And it's because they make it gradual. Like, the beginning of the campaign is easy, the middle is hard, and the end is just impossible. You're literally going to spend an hour here grinding out that final boss. I like that. And I mean, I also agree with you that the special rules, the modifiers to certain games are great, and they should do that in every single game in the campaigns. And I think that I do agree with that.
Yeah. And as far as difficulty for campaigns go, we've had people on Reddit talk about how the campaigns are too easy for bring your own deck. You could have an easy mode and a hard mode for the campaign. I think that would be great. I don't think that's too difficult. You just have two decks. One is for people with a beginning collection, and one is for people who really want to challenge with some of the fun rules that are in the campaign. And so,
Hearthstone does that as well. They have heroic and they have normal.
Exactly, and that's what people are talking about, and I think it would be a really nice addition to the campaign.
I agree, and I think that one thing they could easily do is give the bots better decks than you. Like, if they're going to do, like, where they give you decks to play, one easy way to make bots harder is just to give them better cards.
Yeah, but I think that should also just be an option, because there are going to be people who don't want to beat their heads against a wall trying to beat the campaign missions, so for those who are looking at challenge, they can turn on some setting that makes it more. I would like
That's
to see
true.
that.
I mean, another like, this is more of a mechanical option with the Eternal versus, you know, a problem with or issue with the campaign is I think they should give you the ability for those people to just buy the campaign, like just to buy the individual cards, spend like 200 more gold or a little bit more money, and then bam, you have the cards. You don't have to do campaign, because there are some people who work all the time and they don't have time to sit down and play the entire campaign. And I feel that those people should just have the ability to buy the cards.
Yeah, they should just give you the cards when you buy the campaign, and you can play
or that
through.
Too. Yeah.
Because, like, I think most of us that like really love Eternal and that spend so much time on it are going to play through the campaign anyway to see what's going on, right?
You're not wrong. I agree. I would play the campaign every time, but I know that there's a lot of people, even I know, that don't have time. Like my roommate, he works all the time. He simply doesn't have the time to play through 30 games with the.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay, so. All right, as a quick refresher, things that we might want to see out of Direwolf as far as future campaigns go are getting the cards immediately, some way of making the campaigns more difficult, whether that be by AI difficulty or just the computer having better decks, and also having more missions with special conditions, because those are a lot of fun. Those make the game...
the modifiers, yes, I agree.
Okay, let's go on to the cards. You and I are both very competitive players. This is going to be something this is the part that we care most about, right? So what cards have stood out? What decks have worked? Tell me a little bit about your experience of playing ladder since the campaign has come out.
So I've been brewing more than playing a lot in the last couple of days. I mean, today was my first day where I spent a lot of time playing. And so, I mean, obviously the cards that stuck out to me the most, and I think this is obvious, the Haru Sight is amazing.
Yes,
I think it's the strongest. The Palace is the single-handedly strongest sight in the game. It even beats Peaks. I think that everything about that card is insanely powerful.
Yes, I agree. I think this is the strongest sight that we've seen. I mean, it's... Someone mentioned in my chat today that's format warping, and I agree. Like, where is permafrost nowadays? Permafrost is such a liability. You put permafrost on something, that means that it's just going to attack you with +4/+4 when your opponent hits 6 power, right?
Right. And I think that a lot of people, like when I was talking about it with the other members of the FE chat, one of the biggest things that people say is like, why would I want to pay 6 to draw 2 cards? I mean, you've played the long grindy games. I mean, you play FGS, you play FTP, and you know that there are times where if I draw a card like Palace on like turn 8, I am completely okay playing that on an empty board just to draw 2 cards, because almost guaranteed I'm going to draw something like a Zoe or something that will help me win the game next turn, and I'm completely okay paying 6 to do that. And you know, there's the side benefit that if you happen to have something that gains access to endurance right away, also great.
Yeah, that is also huge. I mean, talking about drawing 2 cards, that's just way better than a Cable's Favor, which is what Peak does at the same cost, right? On an empty board.
Correct. I think that the best comparison that you can give to that is the Xenian Temple. That lets you draw a card and gain 3 life, and I think that's probably the best. That's probably the only one that's probably better than the champion. I mean, the Wisdom. I mean, the Wisdom it gives you 2 cards, yes, but they're 2 random cards. This one lets you basically lets you scry 4.
What about Dizo's? Dizo's Office is 1 of 4. Xenian Temple is 1 of 3.
But I think the gain 3 life is more relevant than the extra card.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so yes, Palace is insane for sure. Any other cards that have stood out to you?
Vargo is insane. I've won so many games with just him. I've had people who are playing like FGS concede as soon as it comes on the battlefield.
Wow.
Like, I can't beat that card. Your deck, FGS simply has to let that card sit there on the board. The only way that you're ever going to kill Vargo is if they for some reason block your deadly dudes with it. And why would I do that?
Yeah, Vargo plus Harsh Rule has been a big player. I think we saw in the ECL tournament this past weekend, and just on ladder in general, right?
Yep, correct. I mean, actually, I haven't seen. That's what makes me really funny. So I'm doing really well on the ladder this time. I've played like probably 20 or so games so far on the ladder and lost one.
Wow.
And I've been playing nothing but Ixaton Control, the list that I recently posted. That deck, I mean, this deck reminds me of FJS on its high point before they nerfed or changed anything. This deck is that powerful. I think this deck is going to be tier 0. And I think that as soon as this ECQ happens, maybe even before, we're going to see some major nerfs. I think that the Sight and Vargo are just so powerful. I mean, it's a safe plate target. I can drop that, and then play it on and have no worries. It's like, okay, what are you going to do? I mean, equivocate, yes, but you know what? The problem is that you can also give it Aegis pretty easily because you do run Palace.
Okay, Torch and equivocate.
I guess.
So I'm still on FTP right now. I do think that the Ixaton deck is instantly a tier 1 deck, and perhaps the best deck, like very likely the best deck. And what people are going to have to think about when they're bringing a deck to a tournament. But I don't think it's tier 0. We only have a few days of information.
I'm not going to argue too much on that.
So like, it's hard to say whether that's right or wrong. That's just like how I feel about the deck. I think it's very, very good, but I feel like FTP can outgrind it a lot of the time. Like if I am
that's the one deck I'm not worried about, because I am a very experienced FTP player. I've been playing that since literally since Zalchi got its buff. I was like, okay, I'm just going to be playing this and nothing else, because it was a really strong deck. But I think that as far as grindiness goes, because I'm not saying that straight out that FTP is worse than it, because FTP has a lot of strengths that this deck doesn't have. Like FTP is a mid-range deck, so it has lots of big dudes, a lot more than Ixaton Control. I mean, Ixaton Control, depending on the version of the list you're running, you're just going to see Razan, you're going to see Zoe, and you're going to see Vargo. That's pretty much it. You're not really going to see any other creatures, but FTP in the various versions that exist, you have Titan, you have Vanguard, you have Zoe, you have any count. What was the other cards that are in there? You have.
Well, I'm playing Diogo Malaga, the new one, in place of Sandstorm Titan. So if we get into the late game, I'm amplifying 3 times.
Are you really playing that in FTP?
Yes, I am.
So what's really funny is when that card was first spoiled, I was like flash into FTP. Is like, wow, this card seems really, really strong. I don't think that it's actually in that deck. I think that it actually stays out.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right, but it's fun.
I like the idea. I mean, you're not wrong. Giving any spell Destiny is great. So I don't even care what I hit with it. Giving any spell Destiny in that deck is great, especially late game, because any card comes into play without having to pay for it is amazing.
Yeah, late game you want your Heart of the Vault and your merchants. You don't necessarily want your spells.
I mean, late game for sure, it's better than Titan, but Titan is so essential in so many matchups.
Yeah.
Titan actually helps you very much so in the mirror match, especially if they don't draw an immediate answer to it. Yeah. They just kind of sit there and cry.
Yeah.
And it's really, really good against Skyrag, where that card is not useful in that matchup at all.
Yes, I agree with all these. I mean, I agree that Sandstorm Titan should probably be in the deck instead of Diogo Malaga. Anyway, so FTP is still probably good, is what we're thinking.
Yes, I do think FTP is still going to be in the format. I think the FTP is now actually considerably better than FJS.
Yes, I agree, because you can actually deal with Vargo.
Correct, you can deal with Vargo. I mean, FJS could deal with Vargo. They would have to swap out a few cards. Like, they would probably have to go back to running Enforcer, which is not the end of the world. But,
it's not. It's not pretty.
It's not pretty.
Hey, there's a card that can deal with Vargo.
But FTP for sure has a much easier time with Vargo. I mean, they have burn spells. They have the Merchant, which makes it so Torch can just 1-for-1.
Yeah,
Vargo, which is really nice. Yep, Equivocate. Permafrost deals with Vargo.
Yeah, you probably don't want to try that, though.
No. Yeah, it's not the greatest plan, but it is a plan. And, I mean, it can stop it from attacking you 1 or 2 times.
Yeah.
So, in a game like that, that's going to be key.
Yeah.
I mean, there is one other deck that I've been working on that I think might be a little bit more powerful than Ixaton. I just don't have all the cards myself to try it. I've been working on a Haru deck based on Knife Bloom's Haru list that he was playing at the ECQ.
Oh, so are you playing Pledge with Bayonet?
I am playing Pledge with Bayonet, but not too many. I mean, the problem is that this color doesn't have very many pledges.
Yeah, the pledges are not very exciting. What I found with pledge is that you need about 12 pledge units in order to get it consistently, and you certainly, if you have Bayonet in your deck, you certainly want to pledge turn 1, because otherwise it's just a +1/+1 overwhelm weapon. It doesn't get any broken stuff.
Correct. I mean, so what I'm running for pledge units is I'm running a Naya and Silverwing Courier, which is the new 5-drop that has the 6/3 that has just invulnerable to damage if you pledge something.
Yeah, that seems strong.
So, I mean, there's a little bit of strangeness to this deck. So, I do still run like the early package. I run Hojin because that card's insane.
Yeah,
and especially
Hojin
I really
Bayonet.
like
it's crazy.
Hojin and Bayonet have really nice synergy. So, if you can play a Bayonet on it, it gives you a power, and you get and Hojin triggers his renown, also really strong. I also really like, and this is the only deck that I've been able to make this card work, is the new Svetya, the 8-drop for 6/6. It's in the market as a one of, and every time I've played it, people get just like, it's like, okay, that's cool.
I'm not that sold on the 8-drop Svetya. I think that in general, it's going to be weaker than Chains. That's just kind of how I feel.
So, I mean, in a deck like this, though, because it is a killer deck, it's a savagery deck. So, I mean, the idea is really nice. And almost all the creatures in the deck fly. I mean, I made a couple changes, though, that the other versions of the deck... I don't run the blue merchant or the primal merchant.
Yeah, so obviously if you're running Svetya, you're going to run as many Justice units as possible.
It's all Justice units. I've got 28 units in the deck. They're all Justice.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to be convinced, but I could see
and I do, too. I mean, if I could play this deck some more, I would. I'm just missing several cards that I don't have. Like, I don't have an Naya. I broke it down every time I got it because I thought the card was unplayable. I mean, even after seeing Knife Bloom do well with his deck, I still thought that card was unplayable. He was just Knife Bloom, and he does crazy shit.
Oh, I think that the unplayable part of that deck was the Jotun Feast Callers, personally. I thought it was great.
They're not in my deck at all. I cut those almost immediately because, I mean, that's the problem I have with this deck, why I don't think it's going to be good, is because it relies a lot on keeping Aegis on certain units, and Vara is just a thing, so...
Yeah, well, we'll see how much more Vara is a thing if people shift from FJS to these Vargo Ixtun decks, because those obviously aren't going to be playing Vara in the place of
what's really funny is,
I would play.
As good as I think this deck is, I haven't seen anyone play it. Like, I see people who are up there right now in the market, and I hear that they're playing Skyrag still. Like, they're playing the aggro decks.
Oh, I've definitely seen people play a lot of Huru.
Yeah, I've seen Huru, but I've seen like Knife Bloom's exact list. I haven't seen them play any new cards.
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen Hojin with bayonets. I've seen a fair amount of that on my letter.
See, one card I don't like. A lot of cards that people were hyped for, and even I was hyped for when they first spoiled them. They're actually really bad, and I think that's another side of this. Is like, I was really pumped to see the Mad Mage play. Like, I thought that card was really, really cool. And it's just not good. The rest of that faction is so bad that I don't think that card is ever going to see play right now.
That's a shame, but I could definitely see that being the case.
Like, Aurelian is easily the weakest faction, without a doubt. I mean, it has the best display, too, which is even worse. It's like, I love that card.
Yeah, we were talking about that in the last podcast, about how that display is good, but like you, I couldn't figure out how to make that card work. Maybe it's still out there to be discovered, but I am no longer so optimistic.
I do have a list that I've been running with, it's basically a version of that Rat Chalice list. I did post it in FE chat, but it just seemed too meh. It's the best way I could put it.
Yeah.
It just wasn't very good. Like, you have to draw a really very specific set of cards for that deck to go insane, but apart from that, it just kind of flops. Like, I've played games with that deck where I literally go, draw, go, and lose. It's like, okay.
Yeah, we'll see what other people come up with as far as that goes. The one other deck that I've been working on, I don't know if you've seen it, I've been talking about it a lot, is the Diogo Invoke the Waystones combo. Have you seen me play this deck?
I did, and I have also tried it myself. I think that there are better combos if you want to play a combo deck.
Yeah, there are better decks for sure. I mean, as far as combo decks go... As far as combo decks go, I think it's actually pretty reasonable. But I don't think it's a tier 1 deck, by any means.
I mean, in this game, Talir combo has always been my favorite combo, because it's pretty much a good deck that has a combo in it, which is why I like those kind of decks. Yeah, that deck that you're playing is not a good deck. If you don't draw the combo, the deck sucks. You don't do anything.
That is nonsense. I killed people on turn 5 with Temple Artisan and 2... bayonets. It's amazing.
That's because they let you do that.
Well, I mean, it still happens. Anyway,
I think that you've also got to realize is that when people see you playing a deck like that, even on the ladder, they sometimes let you do things so that they can see what your deck does. I do it myself all the time. Like when I see a slew of cards that are being played that I had no idea these, like, why would you even play these on the ladder? I usually let them go off a little bit just to see what the deck is meant to do.
So, oh man, you're crushing my hopes and dreams. So for those of you who are at home who don't know what's going on with this Invoke Diogo combo, what you do is you play Diogo, Malaga, El Once, and amplify it once, so that the top spell of your deck gets Destiny. Now, the only spells you're playing in your entire deck are Invoke the Waystone. And what Invoke the Waystone says is put the top 4 cards of your deck into your Void, then play the top card, then put a copy of Invoke the Waystones into your hand, and increase its cost by 1. If you give Invoke Destiny, when you draw the card again, it immediately plays itself. It immediately draws a card and then plays itself. So what ends up happening is once you've given Invoke Destiny and you've drawn the Destiny, usually by going to the market and fetching a Celestial Omen for it, usually what happens is, or what is going to happen is it's going to mill 4 cards, play a card, draw a card, and then repeat that process until you're entirely out of cards. So you might be thinking, wow, so you just mill your entire deck. How do you kill them? Well, there are a few ways of doing this. One is Temple Artisan, which says whenever you empower, double its attack and health until end of turn. You can have that plus a Savagery from the market in order to kill someone. Usually you're killering for over 100. So that's one way to do it. Another way, which usually ends up being the what happens because you don't have the time to set up and put Temple Artisan in play before doing this, is you go to the time part of your market and you get a Lumen Reclaimer and you Lumen Reclaimer yourself. And then you try to get rid of your own Lumen Reclaimer as fast as possible so that copies are shuffled in, so that when you draw a card, all these copies of Invoke the Waystones that were in your Void all have Destiny. So your deck is like a third Destinied Invoke the Waystones. And if you get a Lumen Reclaimer that dies, then you also have Lumen Reclaimers in your deck that can shuffle your deck back. So you just keep on looping this Invoke the Waystones and then Lumen Reclaimer until your opponent eventually runs out of resources and dies. It's a lot of fun. It works surprisingly well, given that I thought that it would be a terrible combo deck. In fact, it's just a bad combo deck.
So what I feel is that I think that deck could be more worth looking at if there was a more set in stone way to win.
Yes,
I think that if it had some card that we just clicked with Invoke way better than anything else that you mentioned, that deck might be real. But without that,
yeah, I totally get you, because there are times where you just mill your entire deck. You either don't have power to get Reclaimer, or you didn't hit a Merchant in your Invoke, which is unlikely, but it does happen, and you just lose on the spot because you don't have any cards left because you milled all of your cards for some reason. Gosh, learn to play.
Yep. And this is much less reliable than the other versions of combo decks that are out there. Like the Scattershot combo is still around. There's still like 6 versions of it. The other day I saw someone that was playing the Ixaton control list, but they were running that Scattershot combo in the deck.
Yeah,
like, okay,
I feel like this combo isn't broken up by removal, which is something that can't be said of a lot of the other combo decks. And I think that's worth a lot.
I think that the best combo deck is still that new Talir combo that almost is piling. And if you play that right, that can't be interrupted by removal either.
Yeah, but you have to get up to 11 power.
Or 10 or 8, depending on how many mana makers you have on the benefit you play it. It's not as hard as it sounds.
Yeah. Seems...
And the deck is a very large chunk mana production. I mean, almost always with that deck, you go to get Eternity because you're first.
I guess so, but let me have my Invoke combo, Linyvine. Quit crushing my dreams. Okay, we're going on. We're going on. Perfect segue into Sunny's not having it. This is a tweet by Bassoon Buffoon. I actually agree with this. I agree with the sentiment here. I'm not criticizing this, and, well, Linyvine will have his take on this. So, on the day of the release of the campaign, we didn't have much word from Direwolf about when it was going to be released and whatnot. It came around to 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noon, and we had no word on when the campaign was coming out, only that it was supposed to come out sometime today. And during this Bassoon Buffoon tweeted out the following: "Waiting for an Eternal content launch and seeing all the people who work on the game tweeting about their favorite game, MTG, just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Eternal has so much potential and could be truly great if everyone involved wasn't just killing time between GPs. I frequently said that Eternal is my favorite video game. For a long time, I wanted to get as good as I could and push myself to be the best. Slow release schedule, awful communication, and the fact that half the player base is just people who wish it were MTG is killing me." And I'm kind of with Bassoon. I thought that the release of Homecoming was really not great. It seemed like they had planned on it coming out sometime during the morning, and it just didn't, and they weren't really aware of it because nobody was really promoting Homecoming from Direwolf. There just wasn't very much fanfare involved with the release of it. This is the first day of PAX, and for us avid fans of Eternal, we'd hope that there would be, it would be a big deal to the people that were at the convention. Hey, look, we've got a new campaign coming out today for this card game that's fantastic. But there just wasn't anything. And it was really disheartening that someone checking in on the Discord was just like, that's wrong, at noon instead of whenever the campaign was supposed to be. Like, I don't know if they were planning on releasing it around noon, but if it was planned on releasing at like 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. or whatever, well, the fact that it took so long for anyone to notice that something was wrong is just, it makes me hurt a little inside, And by some of the other news that we've heard about Eternal, with it coming out on Switch, it just came out on Xbox, it seems like it's doing pretty okay. I would like to believe that people are playing it. It certainly feels like we're getting new people in the community all the time. So I just want to know what's up, Like, why aren't the developers as excited about this game as we are? That's just what it seems like. So that's my take on the release of Homecoming. I was personally very, very disappointed in a way that I haven't been for the release of previous campaigns. Linyvine, how do you feel about this topic?
So, I admit that there is a topic. So, regardless of what my personal beliefs on it, he made some good points, and I feel that he was a little bit more negative in his second post specifically, although, I'm not a content provider. I'm not a content maker for Eternal. I tried to be, and I keep trying to be, but I don't ever get anyone watch my stream, so I stopped doing the streaming thing. So, at the same time, though, I do watch every Eternal streamer. I make a point to go into Twitch and follow every person who streams Eternal, even the new people who come in and do it. I always go on and I watch them, and I feel that that's pretty important. Now, I don't know what he's talking about. This post about MTG on Twitter, I didn't see or hear anything about this.
Oh well,
but I will say
the release was supposed to be during the Mythic Invitational that was going on, and all the people that were working at Direwolf are tweeting about the Invitational and not a peep about the campaign.
The one argument to that is that they are all professional Magic players. They make a very large chunk of their own personal income playing Magic. So I feel that while yes, I agree they should definitely be interested in figuring out what's going on with Eternal, that's not actually the end of the world. But also, their initial launch time for the campaign has been 1 p.m. Eastern time. So the fact is that they were early. I'm looking at this. It looks like the campaign launched at noontime Pacific time, which is actually an hour before the last campaign came out.
Wait, 1 p.m. Eastern or Pacific?
Pacific.
Oh, okay.
It came out 1 p.m. Pacific. It came out 12 p.m. Pacific time, which is an hour before the last campaign launched.
Yeah, I can see that. And
I know that they wanted to release earlier. I think that's what it sounded like, is they wanted it to be up in that morning and they wanted to surprise everyone, but it didn't happen. Now, that is something to be upset about. However, they didn't make that public knowledge, so it's not something that someone can complain about.
Yeah, if you just look back at when they released the game on the day that it was supposed to be released, I think that's fine. But it didn't feel that way, Like, it didn't feel like, oh, it's releasing on schedule, go out and have fun. It felt like, oh, wait, we didn't release the campaign? Oh, well, someone should get on that.
Well, in that a friend, they are very busy. I'm sure that all of the high-ups in Direwolf are at PAX East. So, I'm sure that Direwolf had a presence there in their own booth. I'm sure that several of them were playing at the Mythic Invitational. And while they definitely care about their game, I've never, ever seen one thing about Eternal that it makes me think or feel that they don't care about their. I think that a lot of people want impossible things from a small company. Like all these people are looking at MTGA or Hearthstone, for instance, and they're saying, why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? Why does it feel like you're being left behind? Let's think about the two companies that make those games, and then think about Direwolf Digital. They are much smaller. They don't have the money.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Look, usually I'm behind a lot of the things that Direwolf does. This was the first time that I had that feeling that you were describing of
them not caring.
Of them not caring, yeah.
And I didn't get that impression. Now, I will say that unlike previous campaigns, I wasn't like just waiting for it. I was at work that day. It was my first day of my new job, so I was doing things. And I didn't play, and I didn't even play the campaign until 3-4 p.m. And when I wanted to play it, it was there, and it was enjoyable. I had fun. So I mean, what I will say is that, like you had touched on, there are more new people coming into Eternal every day that I've seen than I've ever seen before. We were getting 3-4 new people in the FE chat almost every day, and I think that that's a big deal. And I think that FE might be a really big part of that. Because you are doing a really good job at advertising on your Twitch channel, and the fact that you play other games, not just Eternal. You play Magic. You were at the Magic tournament, which I hope that when you were down there, you were shouting out to Eternal and FE. I'm just going to assume you were, whether you weren't, where you were or weren't.
I was, but I don't think I bent the ears of too many people. Unfortunately, I haven't heard back from them.
Yes, but I do think that we need more. I think the FE and groups like it need to have a much bigger presence, and I think that I'm 100% behind Sunyveil in trying to make this a big thing. Like, I think that shared communities like FE are pretty much how a game like this is going to survive.
Yeah, well, there's a difference in FE and other Eternal teams because ours is open to everyone, that we can just openly promote, be like, hey, come join our community. And
I think that that's key. I think that these closed off teams are just not helping. I think that until FE, that the game was, it felt like the day before, let's say the first, what did we come out? I think the FE was officially launched just after the first ECQ, is that right?
I'm not exactly sure when, but I think it was the beginning of this year or something.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, before that though, leading up to that ECQ, the game did not feel fun. That was my low point for Eternal. Like, all of the, like, I was really pumped to get into the ECQ scene. I really was loving that Eternal was, Direwolf was launching a tournament scene that was going to be a big deal. But the problem is that no one was doing anything. No one was testing. No one was talking about decks. No one was actually talking about cards or strategies or anything. So I was a solo. I didn't have a team. Even though I had tried to be on several teams, no one wanted anything to do with me because I hadn't been putting up good results right there and then. So people were like, I went in with a deck that I might have been subpar, but I had no way of knowing that. I just only had mine and my roommates.
Well, that is all very flattering, Linyvine, and for anyone listening out there, this is not a paid endorsement.
No, it's definitely not.
I appreciate what you say, and I mean, I think that, yeah, you make a really good point. I mean, I was on Eternal Titans, so all this competition was, really live to me, but I could definitely see how someone who wasn't on a team would just feel really disconnected from the tournament scene. So you hear that, other streamers and or content creators for Eternal? Better get your act together and make an Eternal team.
I agree. And every time I do go into a streamer who's new or a new player on Twitch, I do point them to FE. And I say that, and I give them the FE chat, and I say that this is where you should go if you're looking for ideas, looking for deck lists, looking just for people to talk to, or even, and what's worse is we've got several streamers already in there who are getting fans and followers directly from FE, and that is okay. That is actually one of the main reasons that FE even exists.
Yeah, to have podcasts with cool people like yourself.
Right. Thank you. But
well, I hope this episode hasn't turned too much into a circle jerk. But yeah, Friends of Eternal is great. If you're not already a part of the team, you should join us. We have lots of great discussions on competitive aspects of the game, as well as plenty of content creators who make fantastic content that you can check out and contribute to.
And I think that, I mean, bringing it back to our point so that way we can go full circle here, is that groups like FE are the reason why I don't feel that BB's post was valid. Because FE is huge. We have, something like 1,000 or more people in FE, and most of them are active every day.
your numbers are a bit off. We've got about 350 people, but that's still a lot.
Oh, we had them at one point. We had over 1,000.
Really? I think that's unlikely.
Yeah.
You must have.
I had 1,016. I actually I had showed my roommate at that point how many people we had in here.
Huh.
But they were mostly offline people when I got that number. But well, you're right. It's only about 400. But I mean, 400 is still good.
Yeah.
And most of these people do contribute to conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot of familiar faces and some people that you don't see very often that just drop in and contribute a little and have a conversation and then leave for a while and come back later.
But I think that there is enough that's valid about his point and your point that people should be trying to fix it. So I mean, I agree that it's not as bad as what some are implying, but it is a thing. And I feel that if you don't want that to happen, join groups like FE. Or make groups like FE. You don't have to join FE if you don't like for some reason you don't like me, you don't like Sunyveil, you don't like other people. That's fine. Make your own group. Get your own group of local friends to play.
Yeah. That's a good take on it. I mean, I think that's totally reasonable. Yeah.
I mean, I hope you don't dislike me or Sunyveil, but.
All right. Do we have anything else we want to talk about, Linyvine?
I want to see some of those sweet hoodies.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so I have word from Magikarp, the Inked Gaming representative. We do have t-shirts available up on the Inked Gaming store. I am going to make an announcement when t-shirts and hoodies are up. We're still waiting on hoodies, but those should be up shortly and you should be able to order them. I am super psyched. I'll be wearing one all the time during my stream and in everyday life. I can't wait. I've been waiting for this moment ever since I started the team. Those should be up soon. I'll definitely be making announcements on those once they're available. Linyvine, do you have any plugs you'd like to share with our audience?
So I mean, I do stream when I can, but like I said, I actually had been consistently streaming there for like 6 months, but I got a maximum of 1 viewer. So I stopped doing that consistently, but I do every now and then. It's just Linyvine Gaming on Twitch. You'll see me pop up in chats all the time, and I have Twitter under the same handle.
All right, great. Thanks for joining me, and thanks everyone else for listening. We hope to see you next time on FECast, and until then, we will see you in the friend zone.
Indeed.
Friends of Eternal is a community-based Eternal team dedicated to self-improvement and helping others in their own endeavors. We are an inclusive group and are happy to welcome all comers to our ranks. If that sounds like something you'd want to be a part of, or if you think we're pretty cool and you'd like to hang out with us, go to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Sunyveil, and type in !FE, and there you will be given information on how to join and how to find the Discord. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, I'll see you in the friend zone.